almost half the new user base that is young, less than 30 years in age.
Today, what customers want is the ability to select from a wide variety of products.
It's also important to see where the growth is coming from.
They do not want the confusion of jumping from one app to the other and so on.
So the question going forward is, how do we take this user base?
So let's dive deeper with Mrigank and Chhavi on what the wealth tech sector in India looks like and what its next phase of growth is going to be. Since COVID, the move towards investing digitally has only accelerated. So how big is this digital investor base today and how is it expected to grow from here?
The user base is actually growing quite dramatically. If you look at the demat accounts, it's grown from about 40 million in FY21 to almost 129 million in FY26. So it's almost more than tripled in just about 5 years. Of course, registered base is not the same as active base. The active base is about 35 million right now. And that's why I'd argue that the growth story from here on is about increasing depth as much as increasing the breadth. If we look at the penetration right now, that's only about 13% of the adult population. Compare that to a country like US where it's north of 60%. Even the India base, if we look at the base and compare it to the UPI users, which is about 500 odd million, that's a huge headroom for growth. Interestingly, talking about growth, it's also important to see where the growth is coming from. So if you look at the data, about 40% of the growth, 40% of the new users who are coming in from cities that are tier 2 and beyond, and almost half the new user base that is young, less than 30 years in age. So the question going forward is, how do we take this user base, increase not just the user base, but also bring in that depth of active investors and where they are investing.
So this user base is clearly not uniform. So can you just walk me through what the different types of investors look like and how their behavior sort of differs?
3 fairly distinct archetypes emerge. First is the one who treats SIP like a recurring deposit. They're putting in monthly savings into it, but actually treating it like just a savings deposit, right? They're not actively checking, they're not curious about what are the other products that the platform has to offer. The second archetype is a little more involved, move beyond just the recurring deposits. They are beginning to think about how to build wealth and not just savings. So they're curious about what other products the platform offers and how they can start diversifying as well. Finally, the third one, the third archetype is the most sophisticated. They're holding multiple assets, their portfolio is quite diversified, has higher savings as well. They're also more open to paying for advice or access to products like global markets, etc. The difference between the first and the third archetype is not just the money, it's also the intent and the engagement level. And today, while most of the platforms are sort of geared more for the first archetype, it's the second and third where most of the monetization opportunity sits.
Some platforms are clearly pulling ahead, right? So what is it that is differentiating these leaders versus the laggards?
So we did a customer survey of practically people across India, people at various stages of the customer journey. I think as we discussed various archetypes, we spoke to about 1,000 of those folks. 2 clear buckets of variables came out. The first bucket was simply what we call as a hygiene variable. Each platform needs to have a set of those variables, otherwise customers are not going to even look at you as a platform, right? 3 factors stood out there. I think the first one was simply the ability to have a trust in the platform, which is generated through your recommendations from friends, family, and so on, right? So if you don't trust the platform, you're not even going to open it up as an app. Second is customer support. Like at the moment of a transaction, when you run into troubles, can you speak to an agent? Can you get your problem resolved quickly? That's again one of the hygiene factors out there. And third is simply that you have the lowest possible cost. I don't mean necessarily zero cost, but it could be the lowest possible cost that you end up paying as a customer. This is the three set of variables all platforms need to have, otherwise they are not even in the mix. But what stood out for us was the differentiating factors. Today, what customers want is the ability to select from a wide variety of products, but they would like it on a single app. They do not want the confusion of jumping from one app to the other and so on. Have a portfolio of products on a single app, easy to use interface where I can select what I want. There's no overpowering clutter of products, right? So those are two very, very important differentiating factors. The third factor is simply particularly related to mature users who are doing a lot of transactions in a short amount of time. They want a clean and seamless execution performance. So when you place an order, you do not want any delays or any transaction errors. All of it should be completed in a short amount of time. So these are three really the differentiating factors. The fourth factor, which is a bit more softer factor, we can call it, that is really the ability of a platform to be trusted by the regulator. So in the mind of the customers, they should believe that the platform is being governed properly by the regulators, by the various banking authorities and so on. So that really seals the deal in the eye of the customer.
So the base is now built, the habits are all set. So what is the next lever of growth for these platforms and how should they be thinking about it?
So as of today, platforms are bombarding customers with a bunch of advertisements that you should invest in US equity, variety of mutual funds, loan against securities, so many products. But as part of our consumer work, when we actually ended up speaking to them, most of them said that they don't even understand what a loan against security really means. They don't understand what is a margin trading facility. So there is a clear lack of understanding of what the new age of product means. Awareness has been built in, but a customer is not confident that he's going to put his assets or he's going to take a certain kind of investment into these new products. So platforms now have a task to really educate the wider mass of customers as they are keen to put in capital, that what a certain product will do for your financial portfolio. How will it make your financial life better going forward? So the second things that platforms really need to do is to how to time their offering or their proposition at the moment customers need it the most. So suppose you have a salary increment, or suppose you have a certain financial need coming up in a few years. Can the platforms leverage certain AI, certain analytics to put out their offerings at the right point in time where customers can truly take a decision that this is the right offering for me? Because as of today, there's a menu of offerings being put out to customers, but the timing is not matching. And as I mentioned earlier, the understanding of those product categories is not there.
A big thank you to Mrigank and Chhavi for taking us through the data and for letting us know what it means on how India is investing. And thank you so much for joining us here. We hope to catch you on another episode of the Red Seer podcast.